Good Sunday afternoon to you. I'm Claire Foley. Watch Fox coming to you with a special report this afternoon for word from Governor Henry McMaster, who's set to give an update on damage assessments and repairs happening across the state in response to Tropical Storm Helene. Governor McMaster set to take a podium in Aiken County at the regional airport. He just landed a few moments ago. We'll take you into that press conference as soon as he makes his way to the microphone. There's a look there at Governor McMaster landing at the Aiken County Regional Airport. Now, this is McMaster's second briefing to South Carolinians after Tropical Storm Helene devastated many parts of the Southeast, including parts of the Palmetto State. We've seen extensive damage from this storm, and as of now, we know of at least 19 deaths just here in South Carolina alone associated with this storm. 2 of them are firefighters from Saluda County. We learned yesterday that they were responding to a fire when a tree fell on their truck. We know that there have been many traffic-related accidents. You see Governor McMaster making his way to the podium there. Watch Fox has crews set up at the regional airport. Governor McMaster sent to give an update on damage assessments. He landed by helicopter. He and those state and local officials you see with him were doing aerial assessments over that portion near Aiken County. Aiken County, one of the hardest hit areas in addition to the upstate that was hit extensively hard by this storm. Governor McMaster will be giving an update in Greenville later this afternoon after doing an aerial assessment of that area as well. Governor McMaster making his way over, as you can see. Now, in addition to the extensive damage we've seen from the storm, there have been a lot of power outages, and those continue today. And in the update that officials gave on Friday, they said those outages could continue into the middle of next week. We will give an update on those outages as they stand right now, and I'm sure that Governor McMaster will speak on those as well. At its peak, 1.25 million people in South Carolina were without power. All across the state, electrical companies have been working around the clock, but because of the extensive damage, they say that it's been quite a challenge. These crews telling us at that last briefing that they were prepared yet surprised because of some aspects of this storm, particularly its strength and its track. Now, most tropical storms and hurricanes seem to favor the coastline, while Helene swept in and really hit hard, and that's some 5 or so hours from the coastline. Some areas there we're seeing upwards of 8 inches of rainfall. That's why after this briefing, Governor McMaster is heading over to Greenville to provide an update on the situation of damage repairs over there as well. Let's get an updated look at those outages, though. Like we mentioned, we have an outage map for you that was updated just a little while ago, just before, or actually just minutes ago, it was updated again. You see there are a total of 869,950 outages still in effect across South Carolina. Now, the blue portion, that's on the lower end. As you get into the deep red portions over in that upstate area, like I mentioned, those are higher outages. So where the governor is right now, that's in Aiken County. Let's take a look. They still have 74,576 outages reported. Now, you see, that's not the deepest red we have. You see parts of Greenwood, they've tracked 27,000 homes and businesses over there, and just about 27,000 remain out. So almost 100% outage still reported in Greenwood, as well as Spartanburg. There, they've been tracking 175 customers and 175,000, excuse me, and 166,000 still remain in the dark. Like we mentioned, that whole upstate region really deeply affected by this storm, as well as some of the southern borders of this state, where we know that Georgia was also hit extremely hard by this storm. So let's take another look at some of the damage impacted by this storm. This was in Columbia Thursday afternoon, where you see extensive flooding in this city. Lots of trees down and lots of power lines and power poles snapped by the wind force associated with this storm. At that briefing the other day, officials telling us that several hundred power poles were snapped across the state. Really extensive damage, and over the last few days we've seen folks try to start cleaning up the damage and debris. We saw some cars flooded like you see right here, and just a really powerful storm that these officials say they were prepared for, like I said, but they weren't expecting just the sheer force associated with it, because it is so unprecedented that a storm like this would push as far west as it did. Trees falling on homes, and unfortunately that's where we saw some of the deaths associated with this storm. In some areas like Aiken County, we saw that trees fell on homes and people were inside and unfortunately succumbed to their injuries associated with trees falling on houses. In Saluda County, the tree that fell on the fire truck, killing those two firefighters inside. Just really horrific scenes across the state of South Carolina. So if you're just joining us, Governor Henry McMaster set to take the podium very soon to give us an update on those damage repairs. He and state officials and agencies have been completing aerial assessments this afternoon. They had just landed in Aiken County at the regional airport, where we have a look for you on the side of your screen there. They were doing an assessment of that area, and then later this afternoon they'll head to the Greenville area to do another aerial assessment over there as well. It's been quite the few days here in South Carolina, and we've seen as the storm has moved out, that people around the state are starting to pick up the pieces, pick up the damage, and many of them still left in the dark. But in those moments, we do hear some wonderful stories of neighbors coming together and helping each other out. In fact, this afternoon, a local business was offering free lunch to people in their parking lot. Captain's Choice Marine in Leesville was offering people to come by, have some hot dogs and hamburgers at no charge. And even if people had leftover food in their freezers that was going to go bad because they don't have power, they were offering to, hey, bring that over too. We'll grill it up for you. Just really seeing the kindness and generosity and really the neighborliness of folks here in South Carolina that are trying to be there for each other during those tough times. But the damage of this storm was truly extensive and really horrific in some places. This was video captured by Watch Fox News yesterday in Irmo, where you see power poles were snapped in half and laying there, and that's going to take quite some time to restore power in those neighborhoods. Some neighbors telling us that it's created a hazard for folks to get around, and that's been one of the biggest messages that officials and agencies have been trying to share over the last few days. You see a tree laying on power lines, so folks might be eager to try to get those trees out of the way, whether by physically moving them, getting out chainsaws, just trying to clear the roads so people can pass through. But officials warn that there could be power lines tangled up in those where you might not see them, and if you remove the tree, those lines could snap back up and create a very, very dangerous situation. So they've really encouraged people to try to be patient as best as they can and wait for the experts to come in and make sure that those lines are fully shut off and don't provide any sort of dangerous threat to the general public. I know that is much easier said than done, as people are eager to get their power restored, but electric companies telling people that patience really is the best thing you can do right now. We've seen a lot of power restored across South Carolina. I mean, even just in the last hour or so, as we've been tracking the outage map here at Watch Fox, we've seen a couple dozen thousand homes and customers respond restored, but there is a hotline available to you if you need some help or just looking for the most updated information on outages, repairs, when crews might be able to get to your area, all of that and more. The hotline number is on your screen right now. It is 866-246-0133. That is a toll-free hotline. Again, that is 866-246-0133. And there have also been shelters set up across the state. Last night there were at least 7 active shelters. All of those are listed on the South Carolina Emergency Management's website. We also have a link to it on WACH.com of where those shelters are available, and some of them have listed what they have available at those specific shelters. I know one close to the Midlands was set up at Newberry High School, but Clemson University was also opening several of their buildings today as the upstate again was hit so incredibly hard by this storm. They were going to have some food as well as air conditioning, even as it's still feeling like summer out there, and just trying to provide a bit of respite for these folks. Here's a look at that emergency shelter list still going on here in South Carolina. Like I had mentioned, though, not on that list is Clemson University. They have a few of their buildings open. Some of them were going to be open until about 4 p.m. this afternoon. One was going to be extended later into the night. They were going to have showers available to families there as well. And as much as we've seen shelters, we've also seen schools closing. Lexington One announcing today that they will be closed tomorrow. All of their school and office buildings will be closed for the rest of the day as Lexington still deals with extensive outages. And we also heard from Kershaw County that they will be operating on a 2-hour delay tomorrow as well. And we'll continue throughout the afternoon to see reports coming in from several school districts. So be mindful and keep an eye on WACH.com, for the latest updates on any school closures or delays that may be coming as schools continue to assess these outages. We take another look now at what some of those outages are looking like. Like I said, Lexington County, they are still dealing with more than 40,000 outages at this point. Other parts, Newberry, still almost at 100% outage. They have more than 14,000 still in the dark. Saluda, more than 12,000. And again, as we get more towards the upstate, seeing much more significant outages. Spartanburg, 166,000 people in the dark. Lawrence, 27,000. Greenwood, just about 27,000 as well. To the highest corner of the state in Oconee County, they have almost 26,000 still left in the dark as well. Over in the Midlands, we're doing a little bit better in Richland County. Granted, it's still about the same numbers as Oconee County with about 26,000 still in the dark, but relatively speaking, compared to the total number of homes and businesses in that area, Richland County is in that yellow zone. Lexington County, like we mentioned, Orangeburg doing a little bit better, about 1,500 still in the dark. Calhoun County in the triple digits, got 485 outages still there. But Aiken County, where the governor will be speaking very soon, is still heavily impacted in terms of outages. They have more than 74,000 still in the dark. Governor McMaster, if you're just joining us, is set to give his second briefing to South Carolinians after Tropical Storm Helene really devastated all of the Southeast, but particularly the Palmetto State. We see on your screen there, Governor McMaster set to take to that podium in just a few minutes. We have crews set up there at the Aiken County Regional Airport. As of now, we know of at least 19 deaths associated with this storm just in South Carolina alone. Now, there are resources available to you. So again, we want to show you that hotline that is available to you. The South Carolina Emergency Management Division making this hotline available for any information you might need associated with crews coming around to assess damage, shelters that are available to you. That number again is 1-866-246-0133. Again, the South Carolina Emergency Management Division has been posting several updates a day on their social media platforms. That one there is on their account on X. So that's a good follow for you to get updates on the recovery and damage efforts going on across the state of South Carolina. Now with this, we're still seeing several closings and we'll continue to get more updates on them as well. We had mentioned that Lexington 1 will be closed tomorrow. Kershaw County will be operating on a 2-hour delay, and we just learned that Midlands Tech will also be closed tomorrow as well. We do expect to learn more updates either way if school districts are going to be open or closed throughout the afternoon today. So make sure you stay updated with us with that at WACH.com. We'll also be sending push alerts. You can download the Watch Fox News app to get those alerts sent straight to your device in real time. But it has truly been a mind-blowing few days here in South Carolina as people try to recover from this storm. Extensive damage all across the state, and Governor McMaster is expected to give an update on the damage assessment and the work to repair everything, like those hundreds of phone poles and telephone and power poles like you see right there that have just been snapped like twigs because of the sheer force of this storm, and they've fallen on trees, cars, houses, causing extensive damage all across the state. So Governor McMaster is expected to stand alongside state agencies and officials to provide an update on what they know so far in just assessing the damage. That really was the first step. Before they can repair anything, they just have to get an idea of what they're looking at in terms of damage. And as you can see, it is extensive to say the least. Governor McMaster will be speaking at the Aiken County Regional Airport very soon. We do have crews set up there. Governor McMaster is expected to be standing alongside SCDOT Secretary Justin Powell, SLED Chief Mark Keel, and others who will be providing a wide variety of updates for you in terms of the restoration of power, the cleanup of trees and debris like you see right there, the road repairs that might be needed. There was a good amount of flooding all across the state, but SCDOT saying the other day what they were really facing was this kind of damage in terms of debris. They said it wasn't necessarily the flooding that was such a big problem on roads and bridges that needed repair. It was really just getting this debris out of the way so that roads could open. As this process has moved forward, DOT saying that all of the cleanup would really start with roads of priority. What that means is roads that lead to hospitals, things like that. Obviously, safety is the top priority. We're learning that right now, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster is providing a briefing to city leaders there in Aiken County before he comes to the podium to give a briefing to the rest of the state of South Carolina. So we will be here as Governor McMaster is set to take that podium to give us all an update on this ongoing situation of the cleanup associated with this storm. And you take a look there, Arkeana Jordan is the one at that press conference there. This is a tweet she had posted earlier. Gas station workers in the city of Aiken flooded with dozens of customers. This is something we've really seen all across the state, is both restaurants and gas stations having incredibly long lines as people look to get what they need just to get by. And a big reason for this is because of the extensive power outages. So because people are without power, that means businesses are as well. So There are less gas stations open, so the ones that are being flooded with customers like this. As you see, we're seeing the same things with restaurants around the city of Columbia. There's a better look at it. And it's completely backing up traffic, causing lots of problems all across the state. And on top of that, traffic is a concern because, again, the traffic lights are out all across the state. So definitely a lot of issues going on here all across South Carolina, all stemming from Tropical Storm Helene. Getting gas is just one of those on the list. And you see that this storm has created a lot of damage in neighborhoods, on main roads, really all across the state of South Carolina. Now, power and power restoration is a big thing that folks are looking to hear an update from Governor McMaster on. And the storm didn't just hit South Carolina, obviously. It also really impacted Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. But South Carolina and North Carolina had some of the highest numbers of power outages compared to the other states that were impacted. At its peak, more than 1.2 million people across South Carolina were without power. And if we look at the updated numbers on power being restored, of that 1.25 million, 867,000 plus customers still remain without power across South Carolina. Now, the eastern portion of South Carolina is mostly or completely restored, but the central and western part of the state is still affected. Now, what you're seeing on your screen right now is a tweet from the National Weather Service here in Columbia. The Congaree at Columbia is now forecast to reach major flooding stage late tonight and crest at 31 feet early tomorrow afternoon. This crest is near the 2015 value of 31.8 feet. So anyone who lives near the river needs to take necessary actions, including along the Broad River. So clearly South Carolina is still not out of the dark yet. All of this flooding is continuing to pass through our area, and water levels are still high and seemingly rising. So again, just one more thing that South Carolinians are having to deal with as a result of this storm and Tropical Storm Helene. It made landfall in Florida as a Category 4 hurricane with winds up to 140 miles an hour. Now, it did decrease to a tropical storm by the time it got to South Carolina, but clearly those effects still prevalent here in South Carolina. That was early Thursday morning when a car got stuck in some high-rising waters. Lots of road closures all across the state because of downed trees and extensive flooding. Really something that the people of South Carolina weren't necessarily expecting, just because of how unprecedented this storm was. As we mentioned before, and as people have really been talking about all week long, typically tropical storms and hurricanes seem to favor the coastline, but this one really pushed inland, and with it, some really powerful winds and rain. Parts of South Carolina saw close to 10 inches of rain from this storm as well. And we're just learning more about some of the deaths associated with this storm. According to the Aiken County Coroner's Office, 4 people there have died in connection to Tropical Storm Helene, and some of them were in the 300 block of Church Road in Beach Island. The victims there, a couple, 78-year-old Jerry Savage and his wife, 74-year-old Marcia Savage. They died when a tree crashed through the roof of their home. Also in Aiken, 29-year-old Michael Rukos of New York died after a tree crashed through a home he was staying in as well. 70-year-old Joseph Gullen died when a tree again crashed through his home as well. All of these victims are set to be autopsied in Newberry on October 2nd. Now, these are just some of the deaths we have come to know associated with this storm. Some others happened in Saluda County, where 2 firefighters were killed when a tree fell on their truck. But we know at least 19 people here in the state of South Carolina have died, with about 52 total deaths across the southeastern part of the United States associated with this storm. If you're just joining us, Governor Henry McMaster is set to give an update on the damage assessments and repairs set to happen across the state of South Carolina in response to Tropical Storm Helene. We're still waiting for him there at the podium you see at the Aiken County Regional Airport. McMaster is set to take that podium in just a few minutes. We learned that he was giving a briefing to officials there in Aiken County and should be stepping up to that microphone very soon. Governor McMaster just landing there about 15 to 20 minutes ago or so, after doing an aerial assessment of that part of South Carolina, to really get an idea of what the damage is looking like in those parts from this storm. Now, after this briefing here, Governor McMaster will head over to the upstate in Greenville, where he will do a similar assessment. Take a look at that area that was really heavily impacted by this storm, and do another briefing there, expected to happen later this afternoon. So Governor McMaster, we expect he will be joined by SCDOT Secretary Justin Powell, SLID Chief Mark Keel, and others, hoping to give some more information on this storm. Now, if you want to look back on some of the information he provides or get some additional updates on this storm, South Carolina Emergency Management Division has created a hotline that you can call toll-free to get that information directly to you. That number is on your screen right now. It's 866-246-0133. Again, that's 866-246-0133. Now, the South Carolina Emergency Management Division also has their social media accounts where they're providing updates. You see on the right-hand side of your screen right now, that's a grab from their X account. You can go take a look at their page to get updates there as well. And they're also posting information and updates on their website, including shelters that are available to folks across the state of South Carolina. Now, that's because of this extensive damage that we have seen, including hundreds of thousands of power outages that are still happening across the state of South Carolina. So those shelters, whether they're open for select hours or all hours of the day, they're hoping to provide a bit of respite for people living in those areas who don't have power at their homes and might need to cool down, because we're still dealing with some pretty hot weather, even though it is late in September, almost October at this point. And they have charging stations available. Some have showers even available to people to clean up physically after this storm. We know a lot of people are out there in their neighborhoods trying to clear trees and debris that fell from the high winds. That was a tree that fell on a home in Forest Acres from this storm. Just really devastating damage all across the state of South Carolina. But again, as I had mentioned before, if you're just joining us, you might not have heard some of these stories. But in these moments, we tend to see the best of some of our neighbors here in South Carolina. And that's really been the message officials have been trying to push to people, is to help their neighbors. And some examples of that: Captain's Choice Marina in Leesville was offering free lunch to folks today, offering up hamburgers and hot dogs in their parking lot for people who don't have power, don't have access to food, really, food that might have gone bad because of not having any power. So they were going to offer up free lunch this afternoon in the parking lot of their business in Leesville. And they were also offering, if you did have any food that needed to be cooked before it went bad because of not having power, they said, well, bring that on over. We'll cook it up and serve it to you as well. So really seeing examples of people helping each other out as best as they can. And that's been the message for officials have been giving to people as well. As hard as it is to be patient in these times as we want to return to normalcy because of how powerful this storm is, they do say that that can take some time. In the update that the state agencies gave on Friday, they said a total restoration of power and really what we consider a return to normalcy could take until the middle of next week. Now, obviously, that's not what people around here want to hear, but unfortunately, that is just the reality we are facing because of how powerful and damaging this storm was. So Governor McMaster is supposed to give an update in Aiken County at the regional airport there on how that progress is going. They told us the other day that before they can start really getting to work and fixing things, they need to know what it is they're working with. So Governor McMaster and some state agencies were doing aerial assessments of that area near Aiken County this afternoon to really get a good idea of what it is they're working with, how the progress is going. And we'll hear from the governor now, but we will also keep you updated on air and online on our website. On our website, our Watch Fox team has been working around the clock this week to provide you the latest updates on this storm. This is a look at our website right now. Some of the footage our crews have shot throughout the week going out into these storms, hearing from the people affected, and you can go back and watch these stories at any time. That's on our website at wach.com. And for any new information that comes through, you can go to our website as well, but you can also download the Watch Fox News app. There you can get these latest stories, headlines, and alerts sent straight to your device in real time as they happen, so you do not miss any updates. Some of the updates that we are learning, especially this afternoon today, come in the form of closures. Obviously, at the end of last week, some schools and government offices were closing, and that's going to continue into the beginning of this next week. Lexington 1 announcing this afternoon that their schools would be closed tomorrow, as well as their offices and government buildings. Kershaw County School District saying that they'll be operating on a 2-hour delay on Monday. We also learned that Midlands Tech will be closed tomorrow. A lot of updates expected to come from school districts and counties and cities and other jurisdictions all across the state that are still heavily impacted by not just power outages, but trees still down as crews are working around the clock to make those repairs, clear those roads. But because that damage is so extensive and widespread, it is going to take some time. And unfortunately, like I said, that is not the update that people want to hear, but we'll hear a more specific update from Governor McMaster here very soon. He's set to take the podium in Aiken County this afternoon to provide an update on the damage assessment that's been going on across the state. Now, that said, while they're still in the damage assessment stage in some places, that doesn't mean